Okay, we are on our last few days before we go into our budgeting test. We'll probably have our test either tomorrow or Wednesday, depending on how much we finish. The last test we had was financial planning, and now it is budgeting. There are a few loose ends that we have to tie up before we finish, and I have decided to bring two of my good friends here to help me with that task. To my left is a fellow named Albert, and to my right is a fellow named Isaac, and they're going to help us with unfinished business in our budgeting unit. So pay attention. Okay, first, Albert, I'd like you to help us determine what kind of things do we keep to have accurate records. We've discussed filing a filing cabinet in class, and what kind of things would go in that filing cabinet? Could you help us?
Yes, I can help you. First, you should have a pay stub. A pay stub comes along with your check, your paycheck, which is very important. You want to keep accurate records at all times. Again, the pay stub, it will tell you all about how much you are making gross and net and your deductions in it, which of course I'm sure your students will learn later. Also, any credit card statements will be important. Credit card statements. Every month you would receive a statement, and you should put this in your filing cabinet. You'll never know when you will need this information again. And also, as you have learned in your filing cabinet assignment, you should have all of your store receipts. Yes, if you are audited by the IRS, they will ask for these receipts so you can prove that you have purchased these items. So you must have a store receipt. That is the third thing you need to know, the store receipts. And finally, all of your statements from your bank, your checking account statements, you must have them for access at any time. You never know when you will need to get this old information that will help you in your finances. You must keep them. So that is your fourth. So again, to reinstate, you must have your pay stub, you must have your credit card statement, you must have your store receipt, and your checking account statements. Okay? Fine.
Thank you, Albert. And now I'd like to turn my attention to my good friend Isaac here. Isaac, we've been studying about budgeting, and I think perhaps you could tell us perhaps the logical steps. I mean, you're a man of logic. The logical steps of planning a budget. Could you help us, please?
Hello, my good man. Yes, there are several steps, of course, to planning of a budget, and I believe there are 7 important steps that we should really take heed to. First, of course, you must set your goals. Without goals, I mean, my God, man, you couldn't do anything. So you have to set your financial goals. I mean, are you going to want to have a large house, or you want to have a yacht, or do you simply want to live in a bungalow? So that would be the first step. You have to set your financial goals. Secondly, and make sure you get these notes down, of course, you must estimate your income. Do you believe you're going to make a certain amount? I mean, you have to know generally how much money is going to be coming in if you're going to budget. If you don't know, then you're in big trouble. So you must estimate how much income you're going to make for the year. Thirdly, you must have a budget with unexpected expenses, and even savings in itself, because that's an expense. You'll never know when something happens. Let's suppose a tree falls on your house. Well, of course, you have to get the tree cut down and cleaned up, and maybe you'll have damage to your house. You don't want that, do you? But you know these things do happen. There could be unexpected medical expenses. And of course, you want to save, and that in itself is an expense. So these are things that come up upon us that we have no control over sometimes. So make sure that you budget for unexpected expenses. Fourth, you should budget your fixed expenses. Of course, these fixed expenses are the ones that don't change. That could be something like your insurance payment, yes, or your mortgage, yes. They stay the same because they are fixed. Fifth, you should budget for your variable expenses. These are things that change all the time. For example, You could have your food budget, and of course when you eat, you don't always eat the same amount, and you don't always have the same charge. I could eat at McDonald's one day for $10, and the next day, my good man, you could go to a famous restaurant and pay $200 for a meal. So you must budget for variable expenses. Sixth, you must record what you spend. I mean, my God, if you don't record this, you're in trouble. You have to put it down in writing. How much did you spend? How much did you spend? You can't simply remember this later. You must record it, whether it's on your computer or on your paper by hand, like I had to do back in my time. And finally, it's important that you review all of your spending and your saving patterns. You want to be able to look back and see where you made your mistakes, and of course where you did the right thing, and perhaps the next time you won't make that mistake. So there are 7 steps. Set up your financial goals, estimate your income, budget for unexpected expenses and savings, budget for fixed expenses, budget for variable expenses, record what you spend, and review your spending and saving patterns. That, of course, is it for the planning of a budget. These are the steps. You must know these, and I would assume they would be on your examination.
Thank you, Isaac, and thank you, too, Albert, for your input today. So, finally, I think I wanted to sum this up in terms of really what makes a successful budget. What makes it good? What makes it work? Well, I think there's really 4 things that we're going to have to look at. 4 basic things. Number 1, it should be planned well, carefully planned. The amounts that you must spend must be based on the past. You have to look at what you've done in the past to give you a good idea of what's it's going to be like in the future. You wouldn't just want to make these numbers up. You want to base it on some experience. 2, it should be practical. If you have a net income of $2,000 a month, it's unrealistic to budget for $1,000 for rent and utilities and expect to be able to cover your other needs. It's not going to happen. You have to be honest with yourself above all. So be practical. Be flexible. There are going to be changes in your income from time to time, your marital status. New budget patterns, will require revision. You may encounter or experience unexpected things that we've talked about. You might have an increase in your income. That's great. But you may have, for example, an increase in your medical expenses. When you experience these changes, your budget should be easy to revise. And finally, your budget should be easily accessible. It means that your notebook, your folders, or your computer, where you're storing information, you should be able to get to these things. It's almost impossible to keep all of your budget information in your head or on random scraps of paper. You are going to forget where these things are. You're going to lose information, and that's going to cause problems for you. So again, these have to be accessible. Well, folks, that's it for today. Make sure you turn your notes in, and good luck with the test. See ya.